Russell Westbrook has finally opened up after announcing his retirement, and it turns out walking away wasn't his only option. Westbrook reportedly had offers from multiple NBA teams, but chose to retire instead. And what he's saying now explains why. Let me catch you up. The video dropped on August 12th, and within minutes, it was everywhere. Not a press conference, not a scripted farewell tour with a jersey retirement ceremony and a highlight reel set to swelling strings during a home game, just Russell Westbrook alone posting a clip on his own social media and letting it speak for him. The post contained a video of his career narrated by actor Michael B. Jordan. That alone was enough to make people stop scrolling. This wasn't some throwaway announcement. Somebody had produced this. Somebody had thought about the pacing, the music, the voice, and the message underneath it was short. Westbrook wrote that sometimes you don't even know, when you've already watched the end, that you had to be there and now it's over. That's it. No thank you to the fans, no paragraph-long tribute to his teammates, just a sentence that reads more like a poem than a retirement statement. And the internet did what the internet does. It reacted immediately, and it reacted from every corner of the league. This wasn't just fans typing into the void. Actual players, guys who'd shared a court with him, guys who grew up idolizing him, started posting within the hour. Trae Young was one of the first. He kept it simple, calling it a hell of a career and tagging Westbrook directly with a salute emoji. Donovan Mitchell followed with his own two-word send-off, thanking him outright. These aren't small names reacting. This is a former MVP runner-up in Young and one of the league's most explosive scoring guards in Mitchell, both stopping what they were doing to acknowledge the moment, but it didn't stop with the young guns. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and DeMar DeRozan were all named among the players sharing the moment across social media. Think about that list for a second. That's not a random assortment of role players sending a polite tweet. That's a stretch of the last 15 years of NBA royalty, all pausing to acknowledge one man stepping away. And then there was Harden specifically. The two of them had history, real history, not just a passing teammate connection. As fans, contemporaries, and several others offered their love and well wishes to him, Westbrook also earned a special message from James Harden. Of everyone who could have reacted, Harden's message carried weight because Harden knew exactly what it took to build something with Westbrook and then watch it get dismantled by trades and time. Fans, meanwhile, were split between celebration and something closer to mourning. One post floating around called him simply a monstrous creative engine in his heyday, saying the league was better for having him in it. Another said they couldn't wait to see the retired number and statue go up in Oklahoma City. There was a running thread of people saying this felt like the start of something bigger ending, that Russell Westbrook retiring feels like the beginning of the end of a major era in the NBA. Here's the thing that made this retirement hit differently though. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Just weeks earlier, teams were still circling him. Despite multiple rumors of where Westbrook may play basketball next season, the former MVP decided to call it a career. There was no injury forcing his hand, no team cutting him loose. He had options on the table, and he chose to close the door himself. Westbrook had offers this offseason with the Sacramento Kings and Washington Wizards, but chose to step away from the game on his own terms. Sources told ESPN's Shams Charania, ending one of the most statistically robust careers in league history. That detail matters. This wasn't a man who ran out of suitors. Teams wanted him. He said no to all of them. And that's really the story that's unfolding here. Not just that a legend retired, but that he retired while he could still play, while phones were still ringing, while a rookie point guard hadn't quite pushed him out the door yet. The Kings had discussions with Westbrook about bringing him back in recent weeks, but it would have been in a reduced role as the organization turned its direction over to rookie point guard Darius Okuff. So he had a choice: stay on as a bench piece behind a rookie, chase one more year for the paycheck and the routine, or walk. He walked. The numbers behind that walk are almost hard to process in one sitting. The 9-time All-Star was the 2016-17 MVP and is hanging it up as the NBA's all-time triple-double leader, compiling 209 triple-doubles over the course of his illustrious career. He averaged 20.9 points, 8.0 assists, 6.9 rebounds, and 1.6 steals per game across stints with the Thunder, Rockets, Wizards, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, and Kings. 7 teams, 18 seasons, 1 MVP, and a single quiet video to close it all out. That's the moment. That's what actually happened on that Wednesday. But to understand why a guy with that resume chose silence over spectacle, why he picked a cryptic caption over a farewell tour, you have to go back to where this all started. A kid from Long Beach who almost didn't get drafted high enough to matter, and a franchise that didn't even exist yet in the city that would come to define him. Before there was a signature crossover, before there was a triple-double record, there was a 2-year college run that almost nobody outside of Los Angeles was paying attention to. Westbrook joined the NBA in 2008 as the number 4 pick by the Seattle Supersonics. Following a standout sophomore season at UCLA playing alongside Kevin Love that resulted in a trip to the Final Four. He wasn't a household name walking into that draft the way some lottery picks are. He was athletic, raw, a defensive-minded guard who hadn't yet transformed into the force that would define the next 2 decades of highlight reels. And then, almost immediately, the ground shifted under the franchise that picked him. After a 2-year college career at UCLA, Westbrook was selected number 4 in the 2008 NBA draft by the Seattle Supersonics, but he never played a game in the city. The franchise moved to Oklahoma City that summer, and Westbrook quickly emerged into a pillar for what would soon become a perennial contender. Think about how strange that is. He got drafted by a team in Seattle. He never suited up there. By the time he made his NBA debut, the jerseys said Oklahoma City. A guy from Long Beach, California, who'd never lived anywhere near the middle of the country, became the face of a market he had zero connection to, and somehow it became the most natural fit imaginable. Oklahoma City didn't have an NBA identity yet. There was no history to lean on, no championship banners, no retired numbers hanging in the rafters. Westbrook and the young core around him were writing that history in real time. Westbrook was one of 3 future MVPs playing on those early Thunder teams alongside Kevin Durant and James Harden. 3 future MVPs on one roster. In a small market that had just inherited a team nobody outside the state cared about. A decade earlier, that's the kind of talent collision that usually only happens in league history books, not in real time in front of you. And for a few years, it looked like it might actually turn into a dynasty. Westbrook spent the bulk of his career, 11 seasons, with the Thunder, teaming with Kevin Durant and James Harden, to lead the Thunder to a Western Conference title in 2012 before losing to the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. That series is still talked about as one of the great what-ifs of the era. A 23-year-old Westbrook scored 43 points in Game 4 of that series, 43 points at 23 years old on the biggest stage the sport offers. That's not a promising rookie flash. That's a guy announcing himself on a final stage against LeBron James. But almost as fast as that trio came together, it started coming apart. Harden was traded before the 2012-13 season. The front office made a financial decision that, in hindsight, cost them one of the greatest offensive talents of a generation, sending him to Houston, where he'd go on to become an MVP himself. The following offseason, the Thunder traded Harden to Houston, where he evolved from his 6th-man role. In Oklahoma City to his MVP prime with the Rockets. Then injuries started chipping away at what remained. Westbrook had a meniscus tear in the first round of the 2013 playoffs, and Durant had a foot fracture that ended their 2015 run. 2 seasons, 2 separate ways for the Thunder's championship window to get slammed shut, before it ever really opened all the way. The breaking point came in 2016. OKC lost in a dramatic 7-game series to the 73-win Golden State Warriors in the 2016 playoffs. And Durant departed for the Warriors that ensuing summer. Imagine being on the other side of that. Your co-star, the guy you'd built your entire prime around, leaves to join the very team that just eliminated you. That's not just losing a teammate, that's watching him walk across the battlefield to the other side. Most stars in that position would have demanded a trade. Westbrook didn't. Westbrook remained, signing an extension at a time the organization felt at its most vulnerable, keeping the Thunder relevant in his mid-prime seasons and helping lure Paul George. He stayed loyal to a city that years earlier hadn't even existed as an NBA market for him, and the city loved him back for it. That loyalty produced arguably the single greatest individual statistical season the modern NBA has ever seen. Westbrook became the first player since Oscar Robertson in 1962 to average a triple-double for a season in 2017, the year he was voted MVP. To put it in context, nobody had done that in over 5 decades. Not Michael Jordan, not Magic Johnson, nobody. And Westbrook did it while carrying a roster that had just lost its second superstar. He reached his zenith in 2016-17 when he became the first player since Oscar Robertson in 1961-62 to average a triple-double in addition to securing his second scoring title with 31.6 points per game. That MVP vote wasn't unanimous either. This earned Westbrook an MVP over fellow finalists, Harden and Kawhi Leonard, in a vote that remains one of the most debated in NBA history. People still argue about it in bars and comment sections to this day. But nobody argues about the stat line. That one's not up for debate. During his OKC tenure, Westbrook captured 2 scoring titles, 8 All-NBA selections, and 8 All-Star selections. Every accolade the league can hand a player who never lifted the trophy, he collected, and through all of it, Westbrook remained with the Thunder through 2019 as the face and fan favorite of the franchise that first captured the hearts of Oklahoma City NBA fans. That's 11 years in one city, with one number on his back, building something out of nothing. But nothing lasts forever in professional sports. And by 2019, the front office decided it was time for a fresh direction, which is where the journeyman chapter of his story begins, and where the questions about his legacy start getting a whole lot more complicated. 11 years, one franchise, and then almost overnight, Russell Westbrook became a traveler. The first domino fell in the summer of 2019, and it sent shockwaves through the league because nobody expected the Thunder to actually pull the trigger. Westbrook was traded to the Rockets in exchange for Chris Paul, 2 protected first-round picks, and 2 first-round pick swaps. That's not a small package. That's a franchise essentially admitting the Durant-Harden-Westbrook window had closed for good and cashing in the last remaining piece for as much draft equity as they could squeeze out. The move reunited 2 old friends. The move reunited Westbrook with his former teammate James Harden. Except this time, the roles had flipped completely. Back in Oklahoma City, Harden had been the 6th man coming off the bench behind Westbrook and Durant. Now, in Houston, Harden was the franchise cornerstone, an MVP-caliber scorer running the show, and Westbrook was being asked to fold his game into somebody else's system for the first time in over a decade. It didn't take long for that to produce fireworks on the court, even if the results were mixed. Westbrook averaged 27.2 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 7.0 assists over 57 games during the 2019-2020 NBA season. Those are still elite numbers for a guy in his early 30s adjusting to a completely different offensive system. But then the injuries found him again. Towards the end of the season, Westbrook suffered a right quad injury and missed the majority of Houston's opening playoff series against the Thunder. There's something almost poetic and painful about that detail. His first playoff series after leaving Oklahoma City was against Oklahoma City, and he was hurt for most of it. After defeating their former team, Westbrook and Harden faced off against the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference semifinals. Led by LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Los Angeles prevailed 4-1 over the Rockets. Another postseason, another early exit, another year without the ring that had eluded him since that finals run back in 2012. The Houston chapter didn't last. As rumors of chemistry issues continued to circulate, Westbrook was traded to the Wizards for John Wall and draft compensation. 1 season in Houston, 1 season with the team that had traded away his old running mate in Harden, and now he was headed to Washington in a swap for another star point guard whose own body had betrayed him with injuries. From there, the map only got bigger. He went to the Lakers, chasing a championship in his hometown market, playing alongside LeBron James, in what many hoped would be the missing piece of a title puzzle. It didn't click the way anyone wanted. Then the Clippers, a crosstown pivot for a fresh start in a crowded Los Angeles market. Then Denver, joining a title-contending roster built around Nikola Jokic, hoping a change of scenery late in his career could add one more real shot at a ring. And finally, Sacramento, where the story would eventually come to its quiet, unglamorous end. Westbrook bounced around after that, playing for 6 teams in 7 seasons, including the Rockets, Wizards, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, and Kings. 6 different locker rooms, 6 different systems, 6 different fan bases. Trying to figure out how to use a player whose entire game had been built on total control of the ball. Now being asked over and over to share it, defer, adjust, and prove he still belonged. That's a brutal transition for any superstar. Go back and think about who Westbrook was at his peak, a guy averaging a triple-double for an entire season, the unquestioned engine of an offense. Now imagine being handed a bench role, or being told your minutes are getting cut, or watching a rookie point guard get groomed to take your job in real time. That's precisely what happened in Sacramento. That rookie, Darius Akuf, represented the exact kind of youth movement franchises lean into once a veteran's market value starts to shrink. And it showed up in the results, too. Sacramento tied the Utah Jazz for the worst record in the Western Conference last season at 22-60. It was the most losses Westbrook has experienced in his career, surpassing the 23-59 campaign for the Thunder during his rookie season in 2008-09. Think about the symmetry there. He started his career on a rookie Thunder team, learning to lose. He nearly closed his career on a rebuilding Kings team, doing the exact same thing. 18 years later, the wheel came all the way back around. But even in a lost season on a team going nowhere, he didn't check out. Despite the lack of team success, Westbrook remained a steady veteran presence for the King. He played 64 games with 58 starts and averaged 15.2 points, 5.4 rebounds, and team highs of 6.7 assists and 1.3 steals. Team highs in assists and steals on a losing roster. In year 17 of his career, he was still the guy setting the tone. That's what makes the free agency saga leading up to his retirement so loaded with tension. This wasn't a washed-up veteran limping to the finish line and getting cut loose by a franchise that no longer wanted him. This was a guy still producing at a level that made front offices pause. And for a while, it genuinely looked like he might play a 19th season somewhere new entirely. One report even listed the Dallas Mavericks as a suitor for Westbrook, which would mean he'd join Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving. The logic behind that one was simple roster necessity. Kyrie Irving was expected to be out until at least January after tearing his ACL against the Sacramento Kings. And if he remained on track to return in January, adding Westbrook as a short-term starting point guard before shifting him to the bench wouldn't be a bad use of resources for the Mavericks, assuming they could sign him for the minimum. There was momentum behind the idea that he wasn't finished. This received further momentum when Westbrook expressed an openness to continuing his professional basketball career during a recent interview with CNN. He wasn't hiding from cameras, hinting at more. He was actively saying on record that he still had gas left. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, that door slammed shut. Westbrook's latest post on X put an end to the free agency rumors. So what changed his mind between that CNN interview and the video with Michael B. Jordan's voice over it? That's where the business side of the league comes into the picture. And it turns out the answer wasn't really about Westbrook at all. It was about the entire economics of being an aging star in a league that's rewritten its own rules. Here's the part of this story that almost got buried under all the tribute posts and highlight reels. Russell Westbrook didn't just decide he was tired of playing basketball. He ran headfirst into a league-wide structural problem that's quietly been ending careers early for years now. His own representation said as much publicly on the very day the retirement dropped. Westbrook's agent, Excel Sports Management founder and CEO Jeff Schwartz, released a statement about issues for veteran players, potentially such as Westbrook, to land deals in the wake of the first and second aprons era of the collective bargaining agreement, saying it's incredible that the Lakers sell for $12 billion, yet teams won't spend on older vets because of current CBA rules. Read that again. His own agent is pointing at a franchise sale price in the billion and comparing it to teams suddenly refusing to pay proven veterans a phone number contract. That's not a coincidence in the timing. That's a direct message about why a guy who was still putting up team-high assist and steal numbers on a rebuilding roster couldn't find a real contract offer this summer. The apron system Schwartz is referencing has become the boogeyman of modern front offices. Teams that spend past certain payroll thresholds lose roster flexibility, trade exceptions, and draft pick movement. So instead of overpaying a respected 37-year-old point guard for depth and locker room value, teams increasingly choose cheap, controllable rookies. That's exactly what happened to Westbrook in Sacramento. The Kings had discussions with Westbrook about bringing him back in recent weeks, but it would have been in a reduced role as the organization turned its direction over to rookie point guard Darius Akuff. Not released, not cut, just quietly deprioritized in favor of a player making a fraction of the money on a rookie-scale contract that doesn't threaten anybody's cap sheet. And it wasn't only Sacramento circling. Westbrook was offered minimum contracts this season with the Kings and Wizards as a reserve guard, reports ESPN's Shams Charania. But after weighing his options, he decided it was time to step away. Minimum contracts for a former MVP, for the all-time triple-double leader in league history. That's the modern NBA's blunt answer to what it thinks aging stars are worth once their name recognition stops moving the needle on ticket sales. Some fans picked up on this instantly, and the reaction wasn't universally celebratory nostalgia. Some of it was frustration on his behalf. One widely shared post argued it felt like Westbrook had effectively been frozen out of the league. One post floating around suggested he was the best player on the Kings last season, and no team wanted him for some reason. Another simply stated the obvious business reality, bummer, since he still is better than a lot of dudes sitting on teams' benches. That's the tension sitting underneath this entire retirement. It wasn't framed publicly as bitterness, and Westbrook himself never said a word of complaint in his own statement. But the numbers around him, the offers he turned down, the statement his own agent felt compelled to release on the same day, all of it points to a guy who left because the league's economics had shifted the ground under his feet, not because his body or his game had suddenly betrayed him. Compare that to how he was originally built into the league. Back when he entered in 2008, there was no hard second apron threatening front offices into fear. Teams could take swings on aging vets without punishing tax consequences. The entire risk calculation for signing a 37-year-old former MVP has changed dramatically in just the last few years, and Westbrook happened to be the active superstar, standing closest to that shift when it hit hardest. It's worth sitting with how strange that timing is. This wasn't a guy declining physically in a way that made the decision easy to explain. Some of the peaks of his career were truly extraordinary, and those young OKC teams with him and Kevin Durant and James Harden were just a hell of a lot of fun to watch. That's the tone analysts were using on the day of his retirement, not he lost a step, but genuine appreciation for what he still represented on a basketball court even in year 18. And yet the math of the league said otherwise. Teams looked at his age, looked at the apron restrictions, looked at a rookie point guard on a cheap deal, and made the calculation that veteran experience wasn't worth the roster flexibility it would cost them. Westbrook read that writing on the wall as clearly as anyone, and instead of accepting a diminished role purely to keep playing, he chose the exit on his own terms. That phrase, his own terms, kept surfacing over and over in every single report about the retirement. As Jordan noted in the retirement video, Westbrook opted to go out on his own terms, rather than continue to play until he could no longer contribute to an NBA roster. There's a version of this story where he takes the Wizards' minimum, rides the bench for a rebuilding team, and quietly fades into irrelevance over 1 or 2 more seasons. He looked at that path and said no. Now, Westbrook will have the chance to enjoy retirement and enjoy the next chapter of his life, while he awaits his call to the Hall of Fame in a few years. That's the next chapter analysts are already circling. Not a fade out, but a deliberate stop, with a Hall of Fame plaque waiting on the other side of the wait period. Which brings the story to where it actually matters most right now. What does the league and the city that made him do with all of this? There's one detail sitting at the center of this entire story that fans can't stop bringing up, and it has nothing to do with stats or contracts. It's the fact that Oklahoma City never got to say goodbye. Westbrook spent 11 seasons building that franchise from scratch, and when he finally left in 2019, it was a trade, not a farewell. Now, 7 years and 6 teams later, he's retired. And the city that loved him most watched it happen through a social media post, the same way everyone else did. Fans didn't hide their disappointment about that. One post called it a bummer that the Brody didn't get a much-deserved farewell tour, adding that OKC fans would have loved to send him off properly. Another echoed the exact same sentiment almost word for word, framing him as an all-time Thunder legend who deserved a proper send-off before the curtain dropped. One fan wrote they would have loved to have seen Westbrook play for OKC one final year, saying he definitely deserved that retirement season with them. But here's the thing, that goodbye isn't gone forever, it's just delayed. OKC fans would have loved to send him off properly, but fans will have that chance when the number 0 jersey is lifted into the rafters. That's not speculation floating in a vacuum. From a Thunder team that featured Kevin Durant and James Harden, Russell Westbrook remains the most beloved player in Oklahoma City. The jersey retirement is treated across the league not as a maybe, but as a matter of when. And the Hall of Fame conversation isn't up for debate either. Every single outlet that covered this retirement landed on the same conclusion. After 18 years in the NBA, Westbrook should be a lock for the Hall of Fame. Westbrook, a future Hall of Famer, averaged 20.9 points, 8.0 assists, 6.9 rebounds, and 1.6 steals per game across stints with 7 franchises. What's left now is the argument about where exactly he sits among the greats who never won it all. That debate has already started, and it's not a quiet one. One analyst suggested that probably once we're 5 years removed from Westbrook's retirement, we'll talk about him as one of the best players to not have a title, saying he's going to be up there with a guy like Charles Barkley or Karl Malone. That's rarefied company. Barkley and Malone are two of the most dominant players in league history, who spent their careers chasing a ring that never came. And Westbrook's name is already being slotted into that same sentence, on the very same day he confirmed his career was over. The individual numbers back up why that comparison keeps surfacing. Westbrook has scored the 4th most career points among players to never win an NBA championship. He retires 5th in NBA history in career assists behind John Stockton, Chris Paul, Jason Kidd, and LeBron James, and he's 14th on the NBA's career scoring list, with 27,176 points. The only 3 active players ahead of him on that scoring list are James, Durant, and Harden. Every one of those names either has a championship or is still chasing one in real time. Westbrook is the only member of that specific group who's closing the book without either. That unfinished business is exactly what makes the ending land the way it does. Not bitter, not angry, just unresolved in the way real careers usually are. Russell Westbrook is the first member of the OKC Thunder's original Big Three to retire, while Kevin Durant will be entering year 20 and James Harden will be entering year 18. The other 2 pieces of that dynasty that never was are still out there, still playing, still chasing whatever's left for them to chase. Westbrook's the first one to put the ball down. And that's what makes this retirement feel less like a single ending, and more like the first crack in a much bigger dam. One fan summed up that feeling better than any analyst did, writing that soon, we'll see so many of our favorite players retire, treating Westbrook's exit as the opening note of a much longer goodbye that's coming for an entire generation of stars who all came up together. For now, though, the story belongs to one man, one video, and one caption that said more by saying almost nothing at all. No press conference. No scripted goodbye tour through opposing arenas, collecting parting gifts. Just a kid from Long Beach who got drafted by a team that packed up and moved before he ever played a game for them, who turned a brand new city into his own, who chased a championship across 6 more teams and 7 more years, and who finally decided that the chase itself was the thing he was proudest of. The banner hasn't gone up yet. The Hall of Fame call hasn't come yet either. That's still a few years away, waiting on the calendar. The same way his jersey is waiting for its night in the rafters.